Thank you.
Hello, so just £20.
There you go. That's quite steady coming in.
Nice.
So no, I did cheat, I parked at the top.
Do you just stand?
Yeah, probably just in case I come back the car, yeah, might as well. It's trendy as well, isn't it?
Woohoo, yes.
Cheers, thank you. Yeah, well, yeah. So, I arrived at Herstmonceux Castle today, and they've got their medieval sort of festival going on, which is really cool. I went last year, and the weather was completely different. It was bright sunshine, which you'll see at the end of the video, a few of the photos from last year, just so you can compare the difference between the A7R2 and a 150 to 600mm Sigma lens on it, compared to the rx10 Mark IV, which I'm using today. Much lighter, a lot less hassle, and straight away I've got one advantage over most people: 500 to 1000 frames per second slow motion, which worked really, really well. As soon as I arrived, I just about caught the end of the sort of bird flight, or the falconry bit going on. So it was an owl here just taking off. Unfortunately, I missed at the end of it, but never mind. As you can see, there's plenty of slow motion stuff on here. I did a lot today. Just so cool. Some of the stuff that they were doing was brilliant. Unfortunately, the weather was a bit pants. It was a little bit dull, but yeah, made the most of it. And luckily, with the f4 lens, you can get a bit more light in. So depth of field isn't quite as good as a full frame DSLR or a mirrorless, but the usability of the camera outweighs your depth of field loss. So golden eagle there. Apparently they don't fly that because it will eat people, especially children and dogs. But as you can hear, slow motion, 500 frames per second, and again, just was so smooth. It was really, really cool. So for fire, slow motion video is awesome. You just see the flames flickering and moving around, and fire's quite magical anyway. I guess back in the medieval times it still was.
See, it has a rack at the back, or an arc, for changing the altitude. And she's holding a linstock aloft because she's ready. Now that thing you saw flying through the air was the wadding. Now that's just some grass. Now if that was a large lump of lead, that would be a lot more frightening. You can see it's filled the battlefield with a large cloud of smoke.
So with these Canon shots here, the first clip is at 500 frames per second and the second is at 1000 frames per second. Here is basically a rifle or musket or whatever, and you can see how cool that looks with the and they light the gunpowder, and you get the reaction this end, and then you get the explosion the other end. Amazing. Just shows you how slow our reactions are as the person's now just about turned around. Bit of a closer up. So benefit of this is I've got 600mm to play with and fully manual slow motion, where yes, a lot of mobile phones have slow motion now, but there's nothing on this. It's absolutely brilliant. So I'm stood about 30 or 40 feet away, and I can still get a shot like this. And obviously the background is completely blurred out. It works really well. You can see there's sparks there and everything. Absolutely wicked. Even though the light was pretty poor, it was very dull. A little bit of light trying to get through the clouds, but it was just a cloudy sky. There was no blue or even any sunshine poking through whatsoever. It's a real shame, but still worked. It still looks pretty good. An Archer here, so probably should have shot this at 1000 frames per second, but this is at 500. As you can see, it's a little bit not quite slow enough to slow the arrow down enough, and it just looks more of a blur. It's still too fast. but learning curve there. And then some more. So these are photos now. So 24 frames a second. When they were doing the countdown, they got to 1, and I literally just put my finger down on the shutter, and as you can see there, didn't miss a thing, which worked really well. The golden eagle, never seen one before, but they did say they don't fly it because, especially when there's little dogs and children around, it will attack one, which is quite amusing. And then basically a little owl, tiny little thing, but from South Africa, so it wasn't an English owl, but still kind of cute and tiny, and a big moustache. It was quite funny. And at Herstmonceux they've got their own peacocks. They obviously locked away at the moment just so they don't get attacked by anything, but yeah, I can still get a shot through the fence there, and a nice bit of colour there, which is kind of cool. 600mm. And the fire, so there's lots of these two guys doing all these fire spinning things, which worked really, really well, and did lots of photos. It's just amazing how much heat haze comes through when they're spinning it around. The guy's almost smashing himself in the face with the fire, but as you can see, the heat haze coming off the flames and the actual thing that is lit, paraffin I'm guessing, but the chains and everything are spinning around, which look really cool. As you can see here, slow motion. Just works really, really well. It's interesting to see how fire moves when you've actually got a bit of motion itself. A couple of times the sort of things they were spinning were almost out, and then as soon as they slowed down, they sort of came back to life again, which was kind of cool. So, as you can see there, the guys obviously enjoy what they do. So that was really, really cool. And even capturing things like this, which was pretty awesome. And you can speed it up and slow it down, and that works. Kind of gives that a kind of cool effect. As you can see here, but I also focus was still working there. It was worked really well. Basically stops you focusing on the guy's elbow and things like that, which is, obviously you want the faces in focus, which through there and stuff like that, the camera's not necessarily going to recognise a face, but because it knows what an eye looks like, it works really, really well. People say it's a gimmick, but it's absolute rubbish. If you use it enough, it suddenly becomes obvious, and the reason why they put it into the camera and how well it works is well worth the money. As you can see, they're very dull. There's another shot at the castle at the end last year, absolute difference. The lights, the colours, and everything were completely different. It was a cute puppy. I just want to say hello to him. He was kind of cool. 12 weeks old, I think, something like that. Probably a cute little thing. So he had to have his little photo in there. Then we got onto the nights. As I wandered around, I didn't find the show was great, but I didn't find it as good as it was last year. Maybe that's just the weather. I was struggling to sort of find new things to photograph, I guess. Plus I got there at midday, and I guess maybe I'd missed a couple of bits and pieces, so I kind of almost rushed around, but it was quite busy. So, but as you can see here, the slow motion of the horses galloping around and showing off what they can do, it's kind of cool. That's the only downside of the rx10. If you're recording slow motion, you have to wait until that's finished from its buffer to the card before you can actually do anything else. Obviously you do up to 1,000 frames per second, which is obviously quite a lot of file moving, so it takes a bit. But actually, because they were running backwards and forwards, I actually had enough time to record things like this, and then it would buffer till the next time they were going. So actually it worked really well. I could get a few stills in, and then recompose, and then pre-focus. So when you're doing the slow motion like this, I've actually focused on the board that he's throwing at, so as he comes into focus sharp, that's when he actually throws the sort of throwing device, I suppose, a weapon of some sort, as you're onto the board there, as you can see. It's just interesting to see the horses' faces and how he's galloping sideways, which is quite amazing. It looks really cool. This one here I actually run out of buffer, so you've got up to 7 seconds, but I generally shoot it at half finish, so it's basically only giving you half the memory use, so you're getting about 2 to 3 seconds worth of maybe 3.5 seconds, sorry, of slow motion time, but it means it records faster, which looks quite. It allows you to be a bit more sort of brisk in your recordings, which for this sort of situation was really quite handy. As you can see here, they miss the goblet they're trying to grab. As you can see, the horse is literally running sideways. but so smooth. It looks really, really cool. But, yeah, completely missed it, unfortunately. But even though the light was dull and flat, it's still quite good. Unfortunately, I should have been, ideally, would have been the other end of the arena. But as you can see, the people are still heavily blurred out. I wasn't quite at 600mm. I had to back out slightly. But I was guessing on where the camera needed to be, but I was a little bit low. But only because I didn't really know where the horse from the left was going to be as he ran back to try and get the goblet. So unfortunately that's my mistake here, cutting the knight's head off as such. He's just about in frame. But this is where the slow motion stuff comes in. It's really cool. You can see water. It's supposed to be wine or whatever, but it's obviously water. You know, the sprays and the way it's still going up as he's gone past, kind of thing. But it's brilliant how the horses don't react to anything. They're absolutely so well trained. This shot here, I've pre-focused on the slow motion, so as I'm sort of tracking them, they come into their sort of sweet spot where it's perfectly in focus, and then bang. But again, I didn't really know where they're going to run, so I have to kind of guess previously where they're going to be, which obviously I chose the knight on the right hand side to keep him in frame, so I learnt from the previous one. And then they decided to run at people with jousts against shields, and it must have hurt. I mean, that's slowed down about 20, no, maybe 15 times, and even there you can see he's going over, and the whack it gave him was definitely painful. You see the guys moving around sort of simultaneously. It was kind of cool, and then they started doing little show-off tricks, like running next to your horse and then getting back on it. The horses were brilliant. They were really, really well trained, didn't flinch. Obviously they're used to doing this sort of thing all the time. You know, they're not even holding the reins half the time. The horses are just doing what they should, you know, they've been trained to do. But things like this, I mean, the pressure it must pull to one side of the horse, they must be so strong. As you hear, another bit of jousting here. But unfortunately no sunshine at all, it's completely flat. So having it wide open at f4 really does help get the lighting down the lens. So there we go again. But you know, last year I didn't have the rx10 Mark IV, I had the A7R2 still, and then obviously the A7R3 came out, so I got that, but no option to do proper slow motion, you know, 100 frames per second, which is okay, but you know, nothing on what this thing can do. And the quality, it really, you know, it still looks really, really good. So yeah, really, really pleased so far.
For all of them, all of you all night, we got the Duke of Clarence on Sancho, the Prince of France on Indigo, the Duke of Orleans.
So last couple of bits of slow motion before we go on to the stills from last year. As you see it coming through the fire, the wall of fire, which really wasn't a wall, but it just shows you the horses don't care about the smoke or the fire itself. They're obviously heavily trained. They're foreign guys, I don't even know where they're from, maybe Germany or something like that. Proper hardcore blokes, they're really, really good. As you can see, really quite good entertainers. But look at that, I mean the slow motion of the horse is really, really cool. Super smooth, you can even see the muscles and everything doing, you know, as they do each stride you can see how the muscles and everything move. Work really, really well. So a couple of shots from today before I show you some of the ones from last year. So like I say, even though it was dull, this shot still looks pretty good, nice and sharp still, no noise or anything as such, and it was okay, but it was just cloudy and dull, unfortunately, even though they did forecast a bit of sunshine, but it never really happened. And then yeah, I mean a couple of shots like this were kind of cool. Obviously you can't get away from the fact you've got 1,000 people the other side of you in the background, but then you can see it's a show rather than but as a photographer you want the purest shot with nothing in the background and it making it look more realistic, but obviously in an arena it's very difficult to do so. But as you can see there, a bit of movement from the swords and everything. That's straight out of the camera, not touched that. And then throwing the sword, unfortunately PA system was right behind that. There's nothing I could do about that, unfortunately, because I couldn't move left or right. As you can see, super sharp, locked onto him, no problem at all. And I was using eye focus there, so even from a long way away, it still works really, really well. That's when he actually let go of the sword. The sword went flying off into the ground. Don't know if it was actually supposed to have done that or not, but you know, you can see here, nice and sharp. Background, like I say, you're not going to get the same sort of bokeh difference from a full frame 600mm, but it's still soft in the background. And then you're getting shots like this, and 24 frames per second. You've got everything from before through the moment it happens, so you can pick the perfect shot, you know, where the bits of wood and everything are all separated, and then just pick the best shot you want. And then obviously you've got out the other side where, you know, I probably took about 50 shots, I guess, between there and, you know, from where they started to hit and then afterwards. So that worked quite well. It just gives you that moment of choice. So when other people have said 24 frames isn't really needed, I'm not going to moan. You just got to be careful how much you use, because if you hold it down too long, your buffer fills up quite a bit, and it takes quite a bit of time to record to the card. So slow motion video is out of the you know, out of the moment for or normal video, because it's buffering still. So we're recording to the card, so you can't do anything until, apart from take photos. You have to wait for it to finish what it's doing. You can see nice and sharp. I mean, that's still shots of today that work really, really well. Let's say it's still, even though it's flat, still good sharp images. Quite pleased with them. And then we're on to last year. So shots like this, where I'd actually there on time, and I'd got there before the falconry thing started. That was from the 150 to 600mm Sport with a MC11 adapter, Canon mount to the Sony A7R2. Obviously the A7R3 now, the focusing speed is much faster, and the buffer is much improved, and 10 frames per second, but the A7R2 is an incredible camera, and as you can see here, the sharpness from the images are, you know, brilliant, but the light was nice as well. It was sunny, and you know, it just worked completely different. As you can see there, the colour, look at the difference in colours. That's what makes the photo, not necessarily the background difference or anything like that, it's the colour. You know, the bright sunshine, lighting things nicely, just works really, really well. I mean, the reflection from the knight's armour reflecting light onto that guy's face, just, it was such a cool photo, which works so well. And the main benefit of the RX10, it wasn't heavy. I walked around for 5 or 6 hours with the 150 to 600mm, and I knew about it the next day. I was aching a little bit because the overhang is where the weight is. As you can see there, completely different kind of image of the castle. Lovely, lovely light. It was just you know, it just worked. And that can make or break a photo. So if you've got a dull day compared to a sunny day, obviously depending on what time of day you're shooting, but you know, the lack of light can really make your photos look dull, flat, boring. And as you can see here, these shots here, they've got shadows, you've got contrast, you've got a lovely bit of contrast going on, and they just make it look, you know, just that much better. Where compared to a day where it's dull and flat and horrible, it's just, you're struggling with your ISOs, your shutter speeds, your apertures and everything like that to try and balance the shot as best you can. But a day like last year was perfect, you know, it's absolutely lovely. So anyway guys, so I hope that video was, yeah, I hope you liked it. Really cool day. So just showing off the slow motion more than anything of the RX10 Mark IV. So even at 1000 frames per second in okay-ish light, it's still flat, it worked, it still did its charm. A little bit of sharpening on the 1000 frames per second just to bring it up to sort of, you know, almost the same level as the 500 frames per second. But other than that, it's, you know, it's really cool. Anyway guys, so please subscribe, please click the notification bell, please leave a comment below, ask some questions if you want, and I'll speak to you soon.